So through the YouTube channel, we are all able to meet, and my name is Hyegyoung, and I'm going to talk about my experiences as PM of the Universal Design International Seminar PM. I would like to talk about the evolution of the Universal Design International Seminar and how this is enhancing the competitiveness and branding of Seoul City. And we're going to look at the theme of reconnection. So I'm going to look at the value and also at the progress made to date regarding the universal design in Seoul City. So as you can see, here is the framework or the paradigm that I want to cover. The design paradigm has changed, and so because of that, I think we are continuing our discussions about the design of the city. Universal design within urban design plays a very important role. And here you can see a pictogram. And you can see that there are parts that you can relate to for those who are elderly citizens or those people in wheelchairs or those pushing baby strollers or people riding on their bikes. I'm sure that they are looking for comfortable cities where they can travel. And so that is what universal design is trying to do. So universal design is the basic philosophy behind designing a city, and also it's about enhancing the quality of life. So if you look at the pictogram of a person on the diagram, you can see that in the past we would fit ourselves into standardized design. But now what is happening is that the environment or the surroundings are being transformed to cater to the citizens, and so people's lives are changing, and design is offering that, and so Seoul Metropolitan Government has focused on that. So what you can see here is that if you look at the last pictogram, this is the Sepituntung Island. So you can see that we need design policies for citizens, and that these design policies must benefit cities as well as citizens, and so we need new design policies. And so when we talk about design as creating value for reconnection, it's basically about a city that enhances the quality of life for all of us. So here, if you look at some of the keywords on cloud, these are the things that people find important. It's about the quality of life through design. So design and quality of life are interconnected, they're inseparable. And you can see here a picture of in Millennium Park in Singapore. It's called Millennium Cloud. And you can see it's a very simple sculpture, but it represents the park in Singapore, and it has enhanced the brand of the park and Singapore. And on the bottom is from Singapore as well. This is the Marina Bay Sands Hotel in Singapore. And as the mayor mentioned, we need breakthrough designs. But if you look at Singapore, they do have these breakthrough designs, these disruptive designs that help to enhance the brand value of the city, and it's helping to make Singapore more well-known around the world. So I think there's a lot of implications for us. So I told you that the brain paradigm has changed, and the change is continuing. So we see the first, second, third industrial revolution, and we are now moving towards the fourth industrial revolution. Moving on from the first to the second to the second to the third, we described it as a revolution, but through the COVID pandemic, you could say that the revolution has been accelerated. And so I really didn't do a lot of online shopping, but for the past 2 years, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, I have also become very apt at using online shopping. And so the fourth industrial revolution is part of our lives now, and whether you are aware or not, we are all experiencing the fourth industrial Industrial Revolution. And after the Fourth Industrial Revolution, of course, there will be more revolutions. So industrial revolutions are in progress, and we have to think about how design embraces these industrial revolutions and rapid changes. So how do I explain design paradigm shift to you? So I thought about the glass slipper of Cinderella. So this is from Germany. It's a famous tourist site, and you can see a pink shoe there, a slipper there. And if you only those who fit into that shoe can become Cinderella. If your feet is too big or too small, you cannot become Cinderella. And that's how our environment was. But now it's changing quality of life and human-centered design. These have become the key themes of the new design paradigm. So for each person, the value becomes important. And people need to experience better quality of life and need to improve their lives, and design supports this process. So what you see here is city brand. So I thought about how to explain city brand so it's easy for you to understand. Here you can see the wall of a castle, and when you pile up these rocks, you can see the name of the person who is responsible for this part of the wall of the castle. So this is like a brand, a city brand. City brand is about taking responsibility of the quality of the city design. And so that is what city brand is. So city brand is important, and certain cities around the world are very famous for their city brand. And I thought I would touch on New York. So on the top you see Brooklyn Bridge, and then I Love New York is a very famous logo from New York City. So if you go to New York, you'll find so many I Love New York logos. So New York has become the city of cities, and New York citizens are very proud of their city. If you go to Times Square, this is what you'll see in the nighttime. So I think that you can see city brand includes a logo that they developed, and it also includes architecture that you developed long time ago, or it's about showing that old ancient architecture in new ways. For example, you might shine light on the castles, or you can create spaces like Times Square. And a lot of tourists from around the world would go to Times Square to watch the beautiful lights. And so city brand is utilizing the unique asset of that city. It's about creating a product. So unlike companies, city brands are created by public organization. It's not about trying to create profit, but it's about enhancing the quality of life through city brands. And when city brands are strong, they bring more competitiveness to the city, so you are able to create this virtuous cycle. So city image, if it is strengthened, so if all the images are strengthened, then this becomes a city brand, and the city brand in turn enhances the competitiveness of the city. So on the bottom, you can see a picture of BTS, whom I'm sure you know very well. So BTS created added profit of 550 million won. So it's a huge amount of money. So tourists and products that SMEs export might create value, but you can see that the added value created by BTS is greater. So of course it creates a lot of benefit or profit for the country. But we also have to think about a city that creates added value like BTS. And I think that through the Seoul Design International Forum, we're trying to create a city like BTS that can create these added value. So in the pictogram, you can see that we try to create barrier-free designed cities. So we looked at certain groups of citizens and focused our design on eliminating barriers for them. So universal design is not just looking at those vulnerable groups, but it's also looking at all types of citizens, people who are on bikes, people who are pushing baby strollers. So anybody can feel impediments or obstacles in the city, and it's about removing all of these obstacles and barriers to create a livable city. And that is where universal design comes in. So many people form our society. They have different needs. They're all different. And if you don't understand those differences, you cannot create a human-centric universal design. So universal design covers many different policy areas: culture, art, science, industry, education. And in all of these different areas, it's about creating design that is human-centric and reflecting this in policies. And that is the basic philosophy behind universal design. So where did this philosophy come from? Here you can see on the picture Mr. Ronald Mace. So regardless of age, whether one has disabilities, gender, physical differences, language, everyone, of course, like I'm sure you've experienced the language barrier. So everyone, regardless of these differences, can easily use products or engage with the environment that surrounds them, and design enables this. So it's about creating concrete, good design that everyone can use. It should be in terms of function attractive. And then the next part is very important. He said it had to be attractive. So if you go on the streets, the universal design that you witness, I'm sure, might sometimes lack attractiveness. But from now on, universal design should provide attractiveness. So all of this is not for a special group of people, nor is it unaffordable. It's design that is targeted for everyone. So you can see castor scissors on the bottom. It's like a musical instrument, and you can see there is a cover over the sharp scissor edges, making it easy for children to use. And then here you can see a bottle opener, and there are 4 different sizes. So sometimes people have different size in terms of their hand, and so it might be difficult for them to open a certain bottle. But this bottle opener makes it easy for people to open different kinds of bottles, regardless of the size of their hand. And this one is, you can see a measuring cup, but the measurements you can see from the top. You don't have to look at the side. And then, of course, we have the drinking fountain, and this is something that you've probably seen, different heights. And then here you can see stairs that have been attractively designed. So when you go into a public facility, you know right away where the stairs are, where the elevators are instantly. You don't have to wander around trying to find the elevators or stairs. So here you can see that the escalator has been highlighted in yellow color. And then the last one is universal design for everyone. So we talked about people were divided between those who had disabilities and those who didn't. So here you can use wheelchairs on the lamp, and then people can use the stairs if they want. If you have a friend in a wheelchair, you can use the lamp to push your friend. Right now, if you look at a lot of the designs, the ramps and the stairs are located in separate places. But with this new design, those who have disability and those who don't have disability can actually move together. The United Nations is also very interested in this, and so they created a model called "No One Left Behind" in their design for new cities. So if you look at policy, a lot of times people were left behind. Policies cater to 90% of the citizens. And so the United Nations is also saying that we have to respect the vulnerable groups and that everyone should be included. So cities are important as space for us to live, and you can see that urbanization will continue to rapidly evolve and take progress. And so through the universal design, we can address issues like youth unemployment, create new jobs, and provide new professional skills and areas. And also, this is another agenda item that we covered. We looked at residential space, access to different space, and we looked at universal design. And here you can see that in the universal design, for the developing of new cities, we wanted to make sure that no one was left behind. That was very important. And also for universal design, I talked about the overall concepts that we examined. But Seoul City from 2013 has been hosting the Universal Design International Seminar, and I would now like to talk about the seminar in detail. So in 2013, we hosted the first seminar, and we looked at enhancing the quality of life through universal design. We didn't want to just create a barrier-free city. And in 2014, we looked at universal design in our daily lives. And I showed you a lot of products and spaces from other countries, and this was examined. And in 2015, we looked at universal design and our lives and the connection between universal design and our lives. Valerie Fletcher, Institute of Human Design Center Director, came and delivered a presentation. So we looked at human design, human-centric design philosophy, as well as case studies. And then in 2016, we started to look at universal design cities. And we also started to look at products and spaces in detail. So we thought about ways to promote universal design in the city, and a famous Belgian designer delivered a presentation about universal design. And what he covered in his presentation was that even if it's a very small thing, even if it seems unimportant, he said that all of those things can have meaning and can become important. And then from 2017, and then in 2017, I think the screen is not the right one. Can you put up the 2017 screen? 네, 감사합니다. So in 2017, we looked at the topic sympathy and communion. And Mr. Thomas Battle from Germany came and delivered a presentation, and he also talked about universal mindset. So this is most important when you try to understand universal design. So when creating design, you have to look at the mindset of the designer. The design should include everyone and not leave anyone behind. And that is the important concept of universal design, was what he said. And Simon Go from the Universal Design Center from Singapore delivered a presentation and mentioned that aging was taking place in Singapore. So their design center was creating a universal design guideline as well well as a certification system. So they were very advanced in terms of promoting universal design. So he talked about their guidelines and certification program. And Joseph Wan from Hong Kong, he worked as a consultant in the United Nations, talked about Hong Kong universal design case studies and examples. And Attorney Ogasawa, a Japanese speaker, talked about how universal design was applied to the city of Yokohama. As you know, Yokohama is a regenerative city. It's a harbor city, so it was once undeveloped city, but they are able to develop and regenerate the city and attract a lot of foreign tourists. And then in 2018, we looked at equality and inclusion and also looked at universal design value and strategy. So we looked at how Mr. Richard Simons, he delivered a presentation about Apply Wayfinding. So he's from Apply Wayfinding, a very famous organization throughout the world, and he delivered a presentation. He talked about universal design not being a grandiose idea, but rather universal design was creating big changes through small ideas. So it's about respecting others, considering others, and he emphasized that this type of mindset led to different design outcomes, and that design should bring people happiness and satisfaction. And then we had speakers from Norway, New Zealand, as well as from the Canadian Universal Design Association. So they shared best practices from their own cities and countries. In Norway, they use vessels, and so they got rid of stairs on the vessels, and they created lamps so that people with disabilities could enjoy the different views. So I think it was quite impressive and moving what he showed us. And then in 2019, we looked at universal design and economic benefits. Metcash from the UK, Hedwig Studio, delivered a presentation. Hedwig Studio is a very famous architectural design studio, and he talked about a city redevelopment project near Hudson River and how people are able to communicate and relate to neighbors and their surrounding environment through public space. So he shared with us the activities of his organization, and Mr. Jeffrey Schumacher also delivered a presentation, and he talked about how universal design has been applied to New York City to regenerate the city, and Francesca Aragel and Irelia Golfo also delivered a presentation. So they talked about the case studies from their own countries. So from Spain and Italy, we were able to learn about case studies and best practices. So as you can see, around the world, universal design is an important agenda, and we were able to learn about these case studies. So last year, Mr. Richard Senner, a global scholar, talked about climate change. And around the world and in Korea, with the COVID pandemic, I think more people started to take interest in climate change. So the presentation on climate change was very insightful and helpful. And what I remember from his presentation is that we have to prepare for climate change right now, or otherwise we will see more pandemics break out in the future. So he talked about a city that is resilient to climate change. And then Bureau Soliskin is a famous architect, and in New York and Singapore, He did a lot of projects, and he showed us the projects. So through his projects, even the smallest space in the city was able to transform through his designs. So space was not just discarded or neglected. These spaces were discovered, design was applied, and people were able to utilize these once discarded spaces. So it's quite insightful. Professor Jeremy Meyer, he is from Royal College of Art, and he is a professor there. And he also talked about the importance of universal design. And he talked about universal design from the perspective of an aging society. Gab Rabies is a group director from Singapore, and he talked about city design, urban design, and Singapore metropolitan government's policy. And because Singapore is a small city, they are more focused on universal design, and we were able to see that through his presentation. So in 2020, Universal Design International Seminar was held together with Social Problem Solving Design Forum. We integrated the seminar and the design forum. And so this is the second year that we combined these two forums. So it's looking at the concept of design to solve social issues and to enhance the quality of life of people. And we created this forum to provide that forum to engage in dialogue and discourse. We asked people how much they knew about universal design terminology. So you can see that a lot of people said that they were not very familiar with the terminology universal design. So the Universal Design Forum that we are hosting, I hope will provide the opportunity for you to better understand this concept of universal design. The Design Policy Division at Seoul Metropolitan Government is organizing the SDIF. And design policy is very important. Citizens have need for design. Design needs to be developed in various parts throughout our city. So we need to have policies. People live different lives. There are many different aspects to our lives. So we need to create a platform to hold the value and vision of design. And this will help us to create a city that we want to live in, a city where everyone is respected, a city that has competitiveness. A city that is respected means that no one is discriminated. Through COVID-19, a lot of people are going through hardships, especially emotionally. So it's a city that can heal us. So in this aspect, design policy is very important. And if we want to properly implement design policy, I think design policy needs to have room to become more independent through its own dedicated organization. So if I can explain universal design to you, universal design is about sharing, empathy, and symbiosis. So it's about sharing. It's about sharing with the community in our cities. It's about understanding other people's hardship through empathy. And it's about symbiosis or coexistence. It's about coexistence with nature, coexistence with other people, with neighbors, with people who are different from me. So you can see sharing, empathy, symbiosis. So this is what universal design is all about. And the basis for this is human rights, quality of life, and also it has to do with accepting diversity and making sure that there's no discrimination.
여러분들이 많이 알고 있는 개념들을 그 바깥의 원에다
So on the
적어놨는데요.
outer ring of the circle, you can see a lot of the concepts that you are familiar with. And in order for universal design to be realized, it has to be safe, it has to be barrier-free, it has to promote social integration, it has to make our society sustainable. So it's not just our generation. We have to think about our future generations. There needs to be communication, no one should be left behind, and everything should be human-centric or user-centric. So if I say human-centric, you might be thinking, what is human-centric? Human-centric basically means that, of course, we can be a producer one day, and then one day we can be a user. So everyone has different experiences, everyone has different roles. And when we say human-centric or user-centric, it's about making sure that people are at the forefront when we come up with universal design. Through this, we can create value of the city, and then we also need the participation of citizens, and through the participation of citizens, we can promote inclusion, create a warm future society. And these are all of the basic concepts that underline the concept of universal design. And through universal design, I hope that we can bring life to design in the city. I hope that the lectures or the presentations that you heard will help you to understand and actually realize in your life this slogan, design brings life to a city. Thank you.